Alright guys, this is a big one. We've seen a lot of EVs being launched in Malaysia, and recently we also reviewed the Tesla Model Y. But this car is very different. There's nothing like it. This is Alex from SoyaCincau.com, and this is our review of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 Max.
Wait, before we continue with the video, I have an important announcement to make. SoyaCincau is hiring! We are looking for driven, like-minded individuals to join our growing team. But wait, you might be wondering, why would I want to work here? Well, let me show you. You get access to incredible studios like this and all of this cool equipment.
Hey, I'm trying to work here. Can you get out of here? What the?
You also get free parking.
Wait, get out of the way!
Even coffee from our local kopitiam. Thanks, Jerry. So, are you interested? Hit the link below to see what positions we have available.
When I first saw this car in pictures, it looks like a compact hatchback, but in reality, this is a large crossover SUV. In fact, this is bigger than the Mercedes-Benz EQA and the Volvo XC40 EV. The Ioniq 5 gets a modern retro design, which reminds me of the DeLorean from the 1980s movie Back to the Future. With this shooting star grey matte colour, it looks nothing like any other cars you see on the road today, and it's definitely a head-turner. Up front, there are these double square daytime running lights surrounding the LED headlamps for each side. And on this top-spec model, you also get this extra array of thin lights which illuminates from one end to the other. Since this is a pure electric vehicle, you won't need any vents or grills like a regular internal combustion engine car. However, the Ioniq 5 does come with an active air flap system located at the lower portion of the bumper, which opens up when you have the air conditioner running. According to Hyundai, the air flap will close automatically to reduce air resistance. This results in better drag core efficiency, which they claim could increase the range by about 7.3 km per charge. And the car which we have right here is the Max variant, and this is an all-wheel drive model with two motors, one at the front and one at the back. Combined, they can produce 302 horsepower and 605 Nm of torque. You can get from 0 to 100 in just 5.2 seconds, and is speed limited to 185 km per hour. It comes with a 72.6 kWh battery, which gives you a maximum range of 430 km on a single charge. And the Ioniq 5 is running on an 800-volt electric system, which is quite similar to the Porsche Taycan. And that means it's more future-proof, and if you have the right fast charger, you can get from 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes. And the wheelbase, basically the distance between the two wheels for this car is 3 meters long. That's as long as a BMW iX, a much larger premium SUV. Another thing worth highlighting is that the Ioniq 5 shares the same e-GMP platform as a Kia EV6. But this car, the wheelbase is longer by 100mm, while the EV6 is slightly longer and it sits lower than this car. The top of the range Max model gets 20-inch wheels wrapped with Michelin's Pilot Sports EV tires. From the sides, it has a sleek-looking hatchback appearance with sharp Z-lines, and you also get flush door handles which pops up when the car is unlocked. To give it a more SUV look, it has extra silver cladding at the bottom portion of the doors as well as on the wheel arches. Moving to the back, you'll find an array of pixels for its rear LED lights, and there's a fine strip of LED illumination that runs across the full width of the car. Instead of a sunroof, the Max model also gets a solar roof, which can help generate extra electricity. I think this choice makes more sense, especially in sunny Malaysia. Stepping inside, you notice that there's a huge contrast from the exterior. On the outside, you get this sharp, edgy design with lots of sharp lines, but inside here it looks more organic. There's more rounded corners all around, and it looks like it's designed by an interior designer. If IKEA is tasked with designing the interior, this is it. Since the Ioniq 5 is built on a pure EV platform, Hyundai is able to make full use of the available space thanks to a flat floor which houses the batteries. It offers loads of legroom for both front and rear occupants, and the flat floor also means you can squeeze a third passenger into the back row while still having enough space for their feet. The floor doesn't feel deep enough for rear occupants, but you can easily get into a more comfortable position thanks to its reclining seats. Unlike the smaller Hyundai Kona, you can still tuck your feet underneath the seat in front of you. Another interesting plus point is that you can slide the seats back and forth electronically. To keep things cool, the Ioniq 5 has rear aircon vents mounted on a B-pillar, and there are even retractable sunshades integrated into the rear doors. The overall interior feels well put together, but I think it isn't as premium as the Tesla Model Y or the Volvo XC40. You still feel hard plastics around the dash and the door trims, which are made with sustainable materials. Hyundai is going all out with its green ambition with the use of vegan-friendly leather seats, materials that use recycled plastic bottles for its interior trim, and biopaint for its dashboard, switches and steering wheel. In front of me are two massive displays, which looks like the Mercedes-Benz. I kinda like it, they're high res. But regardless of what interior color you pick, whether it's white, grey or black like this one, you get white bezels, and it's pretty thick. And I'm not really a big fan of it. If you notice, Apple has stopped producing iPad with white bezels because that makes the gaps more noticeable. The 12.3-inch infotainment display has a very easy to use interface, and the on-screen navigation buttons look very Androidish. You can find most of the settings here and view the power usage along with the estimated driving range if you have the aircon turned on or off. There's also a 360-degree camera which is useful while parking, but the stitching between the camera images could have been better. Unfortunately, you can't play YouTube or Netflix on the screen like the Tesla Model Y, while the Bose sound system isn't great but just okay. It does come with a couple of gimmicks to help you relax while charging, like the sounds of the ocean, rain, or even a coffee shop. Why? This Ioniq 5 supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but not wireless, which is quite strange because the Hyundai Kona Electric, which is an older car than this, supports wireless Apple CarPlay. And another thing that I don't get is that it looks like Hyundai didn't get the memo from the smartphone manufacturers, because this car has like a total of 5 USB ports and all of them are USB-A. Hello, Hyundai, Apple and Samsung are now bundling phones with USB-C cables. Come on, get on the program. Another neat design is the glove box, or should I say a glove drawer. Instead of a drop-down door, the glove box slides out and it is much deeper than your average glove box. The door trim is also well designed, and you have this hidden gap which runs the entire length of the door. You can put more than 2 phones here, and they are also illuminated with customizable colors. My only complaint is that it isn't great for holding your touch-and-go cards or parking tickets, unless you slot it in at the tightest end. Another thing that's cool is this center island, which you can move front and back, which is super convenient. You have this deep spot to put your stuff, and if you need to go across, you can just push it back and just walk through this flat floor. Super convenient. Another practical feature is that the center console has a large open compartment, which is great to store your handbags or bulkier items. If you watched my previous Tesla Model Y video, you notice that the car comes with a single tablet display and everything's controlled from it. Even the aircon, the direction of the aircons are controlled from the touchscreen display. But over here, I appreciate that Hyundai has kept most of the car functions with dedicated buttons and so on, all that, which is quite cool. You can adjust your volume using a knob, your buttons to go to radio, home, setup, and you also get the climate control over here. It's dedicated, but I don't like the fact that it's still touch operated because it's quite hard to operate while driving. But anyway, this is something I can live with. Just set the temperature and set the auto and let it do the rest. The Ioniq 5 Max also features power seats for the front that comes with additional lower leg support. If you need to take a break while charging the car, there's even a relaxation mode that can be activated with a single button. Hyundai has also added ventilated and heated seats for the front, but you can only activate them from the touchscreen panel. Interestingly, the rear occupants also get heated seats, which they can turn on with a dedicated button on the door handle. Since this car has a universal island, Hyundai has moved the parking brake and gear selector behind the steering wheel. You get this gear selector stock below the wiper controls, which you can twist to move between reverse, neutral and drive. It takes a while to get used to, but what's neat is that the car will automatically shift to park when you open the driver's door when the car is stationary. Meanwhile, the electronic parking brake switch and the auto hold button are placed on the lower right of the dashboard. You also have this pad over here. So initially it looks like a speaker, but it's not. It's actually like a pad for you to stick magnetic stuff. And I've seen in the forums and online, there are a couple of interesting accessories which you can latch onto this thing. You can use it as a MagSafe phone holder, or maybe a holder for your sunglasses. So you can do a lot of things with this magnetic pad right here. The Ioniq 5 gets a rather large boot with 527 liters of space. It isn't deep as I would expect, but the underfloor storage for this all-wheel drive model is only big enough to store small items like the tire repair kit and the vehicle to load adapter. The tonneau cover can get in the way if you have taller items, and there's no proper way to keep it in the boot when it is not in use. If you need to carry more stuff, you can always fold the 60-40 split rear seats down to get almost 1,600 liters of space. However, there's no easy way to fold the rear seats, as you have to go over to each side and turn down the individual seats manually. Since this is an EV, Hyundai has also added a frunk at the front, which you can use as extra cargo space. However, the front storage is quite small at around 24 liters, and you also get this very odd shape because of the additional electric motor. This is where the Tesla Model Y excels, as the frunk has a capacity of over 100 liters, which you can even use to store a backpack. Besides the lack of the USB-C ports and no wireless Apple CarPlay, another complaint that I have with this car is the lack of a rear wiper. This can be an issue during rainy days or when driving through a dusty road. Hopefully, Hyundai adds a rear wiper in the next update, or perhaps in the next facelift model. Although the digital instrument cluster is sharp and vibrant, some of the information like which gear you're in, your current speed and range available are partially blocked by the steering wheel if you're sitting high up. In some markets, there's a heads-up display, but we don't get it here in the Malaysian models. If only Hyundai gave an option for users to move these on-screen elements for better visibility. Alright, so behind the wheel of the Ioniq 5, coming from the hatchback, this car feels huge, it's massive. As I said earlier, this has a wheelbase of 3 meters. But after driving this for a while, you notice that everything is well managed, and because Hyundai has incorporated a couple of advanced safety features, they help you to manage this car pretty well. Like for example, the lane keeping assist, which I will talk a bit more in detail later. It just feels so well composed. And unlike the Tesla Y, which has a very harsh ride, I mean, it feels sporty if you're driving it alone, but if you're going to use the car to carry passengers and your whole family, that's pretty uncomfortable. And yeah, you get that as well. Lots of warning buzzers and sounds to remind you about cars coming on the sides. So this car is equipped with the blind spot monitoring, which is a bit oversensitive, but I think it's there for a good reason, to let you know that there's something far behind that's fast approaching. And the ride comfort is pretty good. I mean, it soaks up all the road imperfections, potholes and all that. It absorbs it very well, unlike the Tesla, which is pretty harsh. And John, who's reviewed the XC40 pure electric EV, also said that that car rides pretty hard as well. So if you're looking for an EV that's comfortable for long distance drive to carry your family, your children, your parents, this is a more better option. And obviously with the EV, one of the key things is regenerative braking. So each time you want to slow the car down or brake, it uses the motors to recoup the lost energy back to the batteries. So that's pretty good. And by default, there are a couple of levels. There's level 0, 1, 2, 3, and my personal favorite is iPedal mode. So essentially you can just drive the car with just putting your right foot on the accelerator pedal. If you need to slow the car down, you just lift your right foot off the accelerator pedal gently. Don't lift it like that, like a normal petrol car. Lift it gently, and your car will just slow down to complete stop. And this is awesome in traffic jam situation, especially when driving through downtown KL, like right here right now at Jalan Sultan Ismail. And it's so smooth. Like I'm doing right now, I just lift my right foot off the accelerator, it just slows down gradually. And of course, when you do that, the brake lights will turn on to let other people know that you're slowing down. I don't really need to use the brakes. And I reckon that in this mode, you can prolong the life of the brake pads because you're just using the motor to slow the car down. But one thing I don't like about this is that you need to turn on iPedal each time you start the car. It always resets. Unlike the Tesla, you can switch it on all the time for one pedal mode. And you can just leave that constantly on all the time. but here you need to on it manually. And of course, to adjust the regenerative braking is to use this so-called pedal shifter. So these pedal shifters in front are actually the adjustments for the regenerative braking. Just lift it up a couple of steps and you brought up to I-pedal. And with I-pedal, it somewhat teach you how to be a more efficient driver, because you need to look ahead and predict what's going on in advance. So if there's a car that's slowing down in front, you gently lift the throttle in advance so that you have a smooth deceleration. And the acceleration on this thing is epic. Like I said earlier, it can do 0 to 100 in 5.2 seconds. And it's done so effortlessly that you don't realize you hit 100 in such a short time, especially coming off from the toll booth. And the Ioniq 5 has 3 driving modes. There's Eco, Normal, Sports, and of course there's one more extra mode called Snow, which you can activate by pressing and hold the drive mode to activate Snow mode. Of course, there's no point of using that in Malaysia. And in Eco mode, I think it will use the rear motor most of the time, so it's mostly rear wheel drive. Acceleration's a bit subdued, but still bearable for most daily drives. And that's the mode that you should go for if you want to extend the range as much as possible. The normal mode is pretty well balanced. It's fast enough actually. In fact, I don't even need to go sports mode. And of course, it will also use the front motors when it's necessary. I think more often than the Eco mode, definitely. And in sports mode, that's when all motors are in use. So you get front and rear motors working together to give you that extra boost of power and acceleration and traction as well. Here's the interesting part. Even if you set your car to Eco mode and you enable I-pedal, both front and rear motors are activated, because you can see it from the display. You can see that both front and rear motors are activated. And of course, if you don't like this regen technology, you can always reduce the regen level to level 0. So it will behave like a normal car. So the moment you just lift accelerator pedal, immediately the car will just coast like usual. But of course, you don't get any regen. So that means that you lose out from recouping that lost energy back to the batteries. In terms of safety, well, it comes loaded with everything that you can think of. You got lane keep assist, which can also help you to steer back if you stray too far across the line. And there's also centering assist, which helps to keep you in the center of the lane at all times. And just when you go astray, you can feel a slight tug in the steering wheel to remind you to make a little bit of minor adjustments to be right in the middle of the road. And one of my personal favorite is the blind spot video feed that actually uses the video from the side cameras. So this is similar to Honda's Lane Watch, except that you get the feed from both left and right mirrors, and you don't get to see it on the main infotainment screen, but right at the instrument cluster. Let's talk about the competition. So for this price range, for less than 300,000 ringgit, your other EV options are the Volvo XC40 pure electric EV. You also have the Hyundai Ioniq, which is slightly cheaper than this car, under 200,000 ringgit. And you also have the Mercedes-Benz EQA. The XC40 is definitely more powerful. It has 400 horsepower, and I would reckon that's lighter. So you get faster acceleration, about I think 4.9 seconds, slightly faster than this. But that car is quite small on the inside. I mean, the boot is pretty big, pretty decent, but the rear seats is quite cramped. And the rear bench, it feels like you're sitting way upright. So if you want to bring passengers, that's not really practical. But if you're single, yeah, XC40, pretty good. But I would still think that you're getting more car for your money with the Ioniq 5. It's much bigger, you have the longer wheelbase, it's more comfortable. Nothing looks like it, because you buy the XC40, you get the Kona or you get the Mercedes EQA, they don't look special because they're just based off their internal combustion engine siblings. Like you get XC40, right? It looks like the regular XC40. The Mercedes EQA is based on the Mercedes GLA. For this price point, you'll be hard-pressed to find any other EV that offers a better package than this car, because the Ioniq 5 has a massive interior. You also have a long wheelbase, which is more comfortable and gives you more space. The acceleration is crazy and seamless, loads of tech. I think this is probably the best EV that you should buy right now. If you want to plow your money to buy EV and you have 250 to 300k to burn, this is better. I argue that this is a better buy than a BMW iX. Yeah, that car is more premium, you got the badge, but come on, you're saving more than 100,000 ringgit, and this car is actually faster from 0 to 100. If you have 200,000 bucks to spend on an EV, which will you get? Will you get this or another model? Let me know in the comments down below and tell me why you prefer those cars than this. Most other EVs are using a 400 volt system, and by having an 800 volt architecture means you can charge at a higher voltage but lower current, and that should mean less heat and power loss through the cables. As mentioned earlier, this Max model gets a larger 72.6 kWh battery that's rated to push 430 km of driving range based on a WLTP cycle. I didn't manage to do an extensive long distance drive, but based on my normal driving habits between work and home, with an average speed between 80 to 100 km per hour across a distance of 25 km, I'm getting about 15 to 16 kWh per 100 km based on the car's energy readout. On paper, that's slightly better than the claimed mileage figure, which calculates to about 16.88 kWh per 100 km. With more spirited driving with occasional speeding over 100 km per hour, the power usage increases to about 18 to 20 kWh per 100 km, and that calculates to about 360 km of range on a full charge. According to Hyundai's brochure, the solar roof on the Ioniq 5 Max can help generate extra electricity, which can be stored on both the 12-volt starter battery and the high-voltage battery. Does it really work? Well, I can't really tell, to be honest. In this review car, which has done more than 10,000 kilometers, the solar roof has generated slightly over 32 kWh, which is less than half of the total battery capacity. With some rough calculation, that's about 3.2 watt-hours saved for each kilometer driven, which doesn't sound like a lot. Perhaps the solar roof can generate more power if you were to park this under direct sunlight daily. But seriously, why would you want to do that for a car that costs nearly 300,000 ringgit? The giant battery on the Ioniq 5 also doubles up as a huge power bank to power other electrical appliances. Underneath the rear seats, you'll find a 3-pin socket which you can plug in your laptop charger and various items. On the outside, the main charging port can also be used to power up more appliances or even help to charge a stranded EV. To use the vehicle to load function on the external port, just plug in the adapter, open up the cover, plug in the appliance, and press the power button. This is great for picnics or camping trips. You can plug in a coffee machine, kettle, or even an air fryer. The vehicle to load function supports up to a maximum of 3,600 watts, and you can view the real-time usage from the information cluster. There are a couple of ways to charge the Hyundai Ioniq 5. If you don't have access to a wall charger, they've included a 3-pin home charger which you can switch between 6, 8, and 10 amps. From my experience, it works better than expected, and I could get 2.2 kilowatt charge when the adapter is set at 10 amps. I managed to get 20% charge for 8 hours of overnight charging. That's pretty decent for emergency use or if you drive less than 60 km per day. However, it's still recommended to get an AC wall charger that pushes at least 11 kilowatts for your home. According to Hyundai, the 11 kilowatt charger can push from 0 to 100% charge in 6.1 hours. If you need faster charging, you can always hook up the Ioniq 5 to a DC fast charging station. Gentari, a green energy company under Petronas, has recently deployed dozens of EV chargers at Trier KLCC. It has two 60 kilowatt fast chargers at level P4. You can activate the charger via the Setter app, and we got 60 kilowatt when the charger is connected to just one vehicle. We managed to get from 35% to 80% in just 32 minutes. At the time of recording, the Gentari chargers were free of charge, but they have started charging 60 cents per minute effective 1st October 2022. DC fast charging is the best way to use up the battery quickly, but do note that the EV charging rate usually slows down dramatically after 80%. So for the best charge for your buck, it is best to limit DC charging to just 80%. The headlining feature for the Ioniq 5 is its ability to support up to 350 kilowatt DC fast charging, which is not available yet in Malaysia. This would provide an insane 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes. This is made possible by its 800-volt electrical system, which is similar to the Porsche Taycan. In theory, this should offer greater efficiency, and it is future-proof to support upcoming DC fast chargers. To recap, there are a total of 3 versions of the Ioniq 5 in Malaysia. The lower 2 models, the Lite and the Plus, come with a smaller 58 kWh battery that has a shorter range of 384 km on a single charge. They also come with a single motor at the rear, which pushes 168 horsepower and 350 Nm of torque. The 0 to 100 times are also slower, 8.5 seconds, but they are also maxed out with a top speed of 185 km per hour. This top spec max version with 2 motors and a larger 72 kWh battery costs 270,000 ringgit. That's about the same price as the Volvo XC40 pure electric. Although the XC40 has 100 extra horses, it is a smaller car, and it comes with a couple of compromises since it isn't based on a pure EV platform. As standard, Hyundai Ioniq Motors is only offering the Ioniq 5 with a 2-year or 50,000 km warranty, along with an 8-year or 160,000 km warranty for the battery pack. However, you can get a standard warranty of 5 years plus a service package for an additional 10,000 ringgit. So there you have it guys, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 Max. I think this is the best EV for less than 300,000 ringgit. It has a unique design, loads of space, loads of power and great versatility, especially that vehicle-to-load function where you can plug in any home appliances. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, like us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe us on our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell icon so that you'll be informed of our future videos. This is Alex from SoyaCincau.com. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!